What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to Bananas Epic Gaming, and Happy New Year. This part of the video, the opening, I'm filming on New Year's Eve. It is currently 9:50 p.m., but this is going to be the 20th Cage Talk episode, and we are going to be ranking all 23 movies of the MCU, from Iron Man to Spider-Man Far From Home. Let me know in the comments down below what you think about the ranking, and let me know your rankings as well. So let's get to the least favorite of my personal MCU movies. Remember, this is only MCU movies, and this is my personal opinion on them. Here we go. Coming in at number 23, should be no surprise, it's going to be The Incredible Hulk. This movie, I don't really count it as MCU canon, but everybody else does, and it's listed as MCU canon. It doesn't give you the backstory. It doesn't give you how he got his powers, which was from the Gamma Ration. The guy that played the Incredible Hulk, Edward Norton, left the MCU after this movie. And this was, in my opinion, one of the worst MCU movies I've ever seen. Ever. Inside the universe of the MCU and outside. The outside is like the X-Men, Fantastic Four, and all that. I do not like watching this movie. The only good thing to come out of this movie is the fact that Mark Ruffalo got the Incredible Hulk job after Edward Norton left. And Mark Ruffalo got his story arc from Ragnarok all the way to EndGame. And more on those later. The main bad guy in this was Abomination. The big fight in that was the only good thing. And the after credit was Tony Stark coming up to General Ross saying that he'll take care of the Incredible Hulk because they're putting a team together. And that's pretty much it. I'm not going to get into that much spoilers of this movie. Watch at your own risk, because they hardly reference this movie. If I was you, I would watch it once if you haven't already, and then if you ever do a rerun, you can skip it if you don't feel like watching and sitting through this movie, because it is pretty bad. Now on to number 22. Coming in at number 32 is going to be Iron Man 2. I'll explain why right now. So, Iron Man 2 is showing the effects of Tony Stark announcing that he's Iron Man. The U.S. government is after him because they want to use the Stark tech for the military. We have an old family friend who is the main villain, known as Whiplash. And the guy that plays Rhodey, Terrence Howard, got replaced by Don Mancini. I think that's his last name. If I'm saying it wrong, please let me know in the comments, but be nice about it. Gwyneth Paltrow has a bigger part, and we get introduced to Natasha Romanoff, aka the beautiful Scarlett Johansson Black Widow, in this movie. This movie has a beginning, middle, and end, and it is good for what it's setting up to do in the long run. Iron Man 2 was the fourth movie in Phase 1, and it sets up the last push towards Avengers, the first Avengers. And the after credit scene is very important because it is us seeing Thor's hammer in the meteor when it came crashing down to Earth. So Iron Man 2, the post-credit scene, is them saying Thor is coming, Thor is here. The final battle of this movie is okay in my mind, but Iron Man 2, you can watch it, you can skip it. Is not the worst, but it's not the best. I just don't like it because it felt like it was dragging on. Now on to the next movie. Coming in at number 21 is going to be, of course, Iron Man 3. You thought it was going to be Thor 2. That's coming a little later. Iron Man 3. It's a good movie. It should be a sequel to Iron Man 2. But it feels like it's a sequel to the Avengers. We have Tony Stark, played by, once again, Robert Downey Jr., grappling with the Mandarin. More on that a little later. Tony Stark meets Ardred's Killian in the beginning of this movie, and he's having trouble with Gwyneth Paltrow. He's struggling with PTSD from what happened at Avengers, and he's struggling with himself. Does he want to be Iron Man anymore? This movie feels like a Christmas movie as well. I wasn't a big fan of Iron Man 2. I love the Avengers. That's one of my favorite movies when it came out at the time. This movie is very good, but Iron Man 3, the reason why it is so high on my worst scale is because, spoiler alert, Iron Man 3 ruined the Mandarin character. The Mandarin character was supposed to be the leader of the Ten Rings and all that, but they majored Ardred's Killian was the real Mandarin, and the Mandarin that we saw on screen was a hired actor. It was all a show. Ardred's Killian was trying to get Tony Stark to come out because he wanted revenge because Tony Stark left him on the roof on New Year's Eve in the opening of the movie in like 1999. This movie ruined the Iron Man movie series for me. I still love Iron Man. Iron Man 2, it just got that little nudge above this one because Whiplash, he felt like he was a awful villain in my mind. But the post-credit scene for this movie is we see Tony Stark talking to Mark Ruffalo, aka the Incredible Hulk, about the events, and Tony asks the Hulk, what do you remember me telling you last? And it was a rooftop in the country they were in. And that was at the beginning of the movie. Iron Man 3 was really good at its time. It did what it was supposed to do. Show Tony Stark. And after Tony Stark got the strap metal removed, and we thought, that's it. He's not going to be Iron Man anymore. Well, some people did. Well, if you believe that, you were dumb. But this was the last Iron Man movie, and part of me wishes that they didn't do what they did to Tony Stark in Avengers EndGame so we can get one more Iron Man movie. But what can you do? Now on to the next movie. Coming in next, to be no surprise to anybody, it is some people's least favorite Marvel movie, and that is Thor 2: The Dark World. This movie, it is known for introducing the Reality Stone. The first half of the movie is kind of like Lord of the Rings in space, and the original director they had in mind for this movie was supposed to direct this movie is the director for Wonder Woman. So if you didn't know that, now you do. The main villain of this movie is Malekith. He's a dark elf. The dark elves are the main villains in this movie. Odin's father hid the ether from the dark elves after they defeated them millions of years ago. The original plan for this movie was to be Romeo and Juliet. Thor is stuck on Asgard. Jane, played by Natalie Portman, is stuck on Earth. And then Thor checks up on Jane from time to time. And one day, she's missing. Nobody can find her. So Thor comes to Earth to find Jane. And surprise, surprise, of course, Jane finds the Reality Stone. The Reality Stone affects her, gets inside her, and now Malekith's coming out to Jane. Because Malekith wants the Reality Stone. That's a little bit of the background of the movie. Some of the highlights of this movie, like I said, the reality stone and the post-credit scene of Lady Sif and I forgot the other guy's name. Lady Sif and the other warriors to remember bringing the reality stone to Talabar the Collector. He is a main person in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie. And we find out that he's collecting the stones, but who is he collecting them for? There's not that much to say about this movie. I don't like it. I dread having to watch it. Normally it would be above all the other movies, but since I'm counting Hulk as canon for this video, and the other two IronMans that I just rewatched when Avengers EndGame came out, and at the end of the year last year, I realized that it's not that bad. It just had bad writing. If it had a better director and maybe a better story, Thor 2 could have been a really good movie. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next, I know this isn't to give me some hate, but it is Captain Marvel. So when they announced that they were making a Captain Marvel movie, I'm like, okay, sweet. And they announced it was going to be the Skrulls. I'm like, okay, I can't wait to see this. But there was so many things wrong with this movie in my mind. But I just want to see a good film. I don't care if it fails. I don't care if it succeeds. I want to see a well-made film by people that love and respect the art form and respect the superhero and the superhero universe. Whether that's for women that don't get a chance to see a female hero on screen, or your average audience member that wants to be entertained. Captain Marvel does have some entertaining spots. First act, well done. Second act, well done. Brie Larson, Samuel Jackson play well off each other. But there are some big things that made me not like this movie. Like, we know it takes place in the 90s. We know she leaves and says, if you ever need me, page me. Why didn't Nick Fury page her during the events of Avengers? Or during the events of Age of Ultron? Or during any of the events that were happening throughout the MCU? Why did he wait until this moment to when Thanos snapped his fingers and everybody started getting erased? Why did they wait that long? I know realistically, story point, it makes sense, kind of. But I'm just scratching my head. Yes, Captain Marvel is supposed to be one of the most powerful superheroes that they have in the MCU. And now they can just build her up. And they brought her in saying she's going to be the most powerful, and Thanos wiped the floor with her in Avengers EndGame. And one of the most praiseworthy elements of this film was the CGI when they de-aged Samuel Jackson. It's stunning. He actually looks young. Captain Marvel, to me, was right place, right time. Right place, it gives you a backstory on the superhero listen to come in that's going to save the day that we think. But I would have liked to have seen it sooner. It feels like they had just made this movie because Wonder Woman did so well. Where has Captain Marvel been throughout these 20 years of the MCU? We have Jude Law training Brie Larson's character. Carol Danvers. The main villains, I don't believe it. I've said this, are the Skrulls. And we learn that Carol gets her powers through the Tesseract. This felt different from other Marvel films. And after seeing Thor Ragnarok and Winter Soldier and EndGame and Infinity War, this movie felt different. Goose the Cat. There was a cat called Goose, and that was one of the highlights of the movie. It felt like a bland and disappointing movie to me. film doesn't have much of a style. I watched it a few times, and it is up there in my least favorite movies. And no, that's not because she's a woman. I can't wait for the Black Widow movie to come out. But I hope that Captain Marvel 2 is better. This could be their Thor Ragnarok or their Iron Man 2 or 3. Captain Marvel felt like a series of setups where the actors are just performing, and it didn't feel right to me. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next, we have the movie of the smallest superhero in the MCU, Ant-Man. Yes, Ant-Man Part 1. Ant-Man stars Paul Rudd as Scott Lang, aka Ant-Man, Dr. Hank Pym, played by the Michael Douglas. Eva Lilly plays Hope Van Dyne, aka Wasp. The main villain is Yellow Jack. We have an appearance by Sam Wilson, aka the Falcon. So basically, Ant-Man is about Scott Lang, Paul Rudd's character, who is in prison. We meet him when he's in prison. He's gonna get out of prison. He just did some time because he stole some stuff, and Michael Douglas's character wants to recruit Paul Rudd's character to break in and steal some stuff. He basically lets Paul Rudd break into his house and steal the Ant-Man jacket because he wants to make sure that Yellow Jacket doesn't try and duplicate the Ant-Man suit. Because Yellow Jacket is, of course, the big bad guy, because their first big bad guy of every superhero is always like the opposite. This wasn't supposed to be the MCU. That's why the original director left, because they didn't want to tie into the MCU. But luckily they did. I like this movie. I like the characters. The action was great. The premise is absurd as it is. And this movie was the best Ant-Man movie that we were ever going to get. Until we got Antman and The Wasp 2, which we'll talk about later on. Paul Rudd, of course, he said yes when they approached him saying, do you want to be the star of a Marvel movie? And Paul Rudd fits in the MCU. Michael Douglas as Hank Pym is perfect casting in my mind. Perfect casting. I love it. I'm not going to get into too much. In case you haven't seen it, what are you doing? But go see it. Because now we're starting to get into the good MCU movies. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next is going to be Ant-Man 2, aka Antman and the Wasp. Antman and the Wasp picks up as we see Scott on his last few days of house arrest from the events of Captain America Civil War. Scott is looking forward to being able to get the ankle bracelet off and be the father that he's meant to be. But surprise, surprise, Avenger comes calling as Hank Pym and Hope come to him to help them find their mother and Hank Pym's wife, who was lost in the quantum realm when Hope was a kid. The main villain of this movie is a villain called Ghost. They believe that the original Wasp is still alive. I really enjoyed this movie. And we have somebody in the background buying all the Pym tech. I'm trying to obtain all the Pym tech. I recommend seeing this movie. I really like this movie. This movie is lighthearted when it was needed, because this movie came out right after Avengers Infinity War. This is similar to the first movie. It has T.I. and it has all the original people that are Ant-Man's friends, his criminal friends. And this movie, we knew what was going to happen. We knew we were going to see the effects of the snap. This movie's fun. Can't wait for Ant-Man 3. Because, who knows? Because now we have Stature, Ant-Man's daughter, because of the big time jump that we had in the Avengers EndGame. The outcome of this movie was Scott got stuck in the quantum realm. So, who knows what the future could hold for Ant-Man. It might get a Disney Plus series, or I hope it gets a third movie. Then it can probably get like a Disney Plus series. Watch Ant-Man and the Wasp, and pay close attention and see if you can figure out who is trying to obtain all the Pym tech. I think it's Norman Osborn. What do you think? Let me know down in the comments. Now on to the next movie. Coming in at number 16 is going to be the original Thor. Thor has Anthony Hopkins, it has Tom Hiddleston, and it has Chris Hemsworth. Loki, the god of mischief, is the main bad guy in this movie, the main villain. And when Thor, we first see him, he seemed like if Kratos and Johnny Cage had a baby together. This movie is all about Thor's redemption. He gets casted out for what he did in the movie. And Odin sends Mjolnir to Earth to find somebody that is worthy of obtaining the power of Thor. And Thor tries to prove that he is worthy, and he learns from his mistakes. Because we come to find out that Loki is a frosted giant. When Thor is at his lowest low, you feel for him. You feel bad for him. We meet the lovely Natalie Portman, who plays Thor's love interest in this movie. And she just disappears after part 2. There's a couple good fight scenes in this movie that I can remember. And it kicks off the summer season in a good way. Thor 1 is the third best Phase 1 movie, right behind Captain America and Avengers and Iron Man, so fourth. But if you want to watch the Thor movies, this one's worth it, like a one-time watch. If you like doing what I did, and just did a huge MCU marathon leading up to EndGame and then Infinity War. I did that for those 2 movies. Now on to the next movie. Coming in at number 15 is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume Number 2. So for me, I'm going to give the positives and the negatives. The positives are Yondu. Yondu was the breakout star in this movie. And spoiler alert, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yondu dies so Peter can live. And then the post-credit scene is all those friends from the Avengers days come together. And they teased that movie. And they teased Yondu's right-hand man getting his little pen that moves when he whistles. Baby Groot, adorable. I love Baby Groot. And Star-Lord gets to meet his father, played by Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell plays Eagle the Living Planet, and Eagle the Living Planet is a bad guy. He is the bad guy in the movie. Because we find out that Eagle the Living Planet caused Star-Lord's mom to die. He caused the cancer to come back. Or kickstart. And then we get the opening sequence is the Guardians of the Galaxy working for these gold people. I forgot their names. I can't remember them at the top of my head. And they create Adam Warlock. Because they ask, what are you going to call this person that's in this cocoon? And she says, I think I'll call him Adam. And for those of you that don't know, that's going to be Adam Warlock. Now, the Nebula and Gamora stuff was pretty good. They didn't do it nearly as much as they did in the first one. And we find out from Nebula's horror stories that Thanos is a dick. He needs to be stopped. Now, some of the stuff that I didn't really like, Drax didn't do much. And Eagle of the Living Planet, the final fight could have gone better. And something else I liked, we got Mantis, the person that can put people to sleep. She comes in handy in future movies. The only other movies she's been in, Infinity War and EndGame. She did a lot more in Infinity War than she did in this one. And she's in love with Drax, and Drax says no. Now on to the next movie. Mordo. Coming in at number 14 for me, I'm going to get some hate for this, but it is Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange has Rachel McAdams. It has Benedict Cumberbatch as the Doctor Strange. It has the Ancient One. The main villain of this movie is Dormammu, and we get Mordor, who is built up to be a villain in the future movies. This is an origin story like it should be. Doctor Strange wrecks his car on a rainy night, and he is shaking. He can't do his job anymore. He was an oral surgeon. He was a doctor, obviously. So he went looking for answers, and then he ran into these monks who teach him the ways. I only watched this movie when Infinity War was about to come out. It's not my favorite movie in the Marvel Universe, but it's not my least favorite movie. It's only above all these other ones because of the long-term picture. Because in EndGame, we find out the Ancient One was fighting off the alien invaders, and she knew that Doctor Strange would be key, and he would be a big part in the future. And with the new movie Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness coming out, that could be really good, because now that Doctor Strange, the Time Stone is gone, Dormammu can come. I'm not going to explain what that means, because go watch the movie. But Doctor Strange, to me, not my favorite movie, but it's a good movie overall. Now on to the next movie. Coming in at number 13 for me is going to be the original Avengers. Now, the original Avengers, it was the first time that we had a big superhero team-up movie ever on the big screen. It came out 2012, my senior year of high school, and right after prom, a couple days after prom, I went and saw this, and I was like, wow. I can't wait to see what else lies ahead. The main villain in this movie is Loki and the Atari. We later find out that Thanos is pulling the strings. He's a mid-credit, post-credit scene. He's pulling the strings to make sure that he can court death. Then they drop that, and he just wants to wipe out humanity to save humanity. But more on that later. We're talking about the original Avengers. We have Thor. We have Mark Ruffalo's first movie as the Hulk. We have the lovely Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. We have Robert Downey Jr. returning as Iron Man after the hit tropes as Iron Man 2. We have Steven Rogers, a.k.a. Chris Evans, Captain America, from the first Avenger. We'll talk about that later as well, after he got thawed out. So, all the movies in Phase 1 and this took place within a couple weeks, like Iron Man 2, Thor 2, and the ending of Captain America and this. It took place in like the same week. So they had Phil Coulson had a busy week. I was really surprised and happy they pulled this off, because I was talking to some of my friends about this when it came out and a couple weeks ago, and we were surprised. We thought that it would be a miss, but it wasn't. Iron Man was amazing in this movie. He had his moments. Every character had their moments in this movie, and that's what is so amazing. I love the MCU, and the Avengers kick-started it off, and now look at it. We're going into Phase 4 with a Black Widow movie, which should have happened in Phase 1 if you ask me. But, man, now on to the next movie. Please don't hate me for this, but the next movie is the movie that started it all. It's going to be Iron Man. When I first saw the trailer for Iron Man in 2008, I was like, okay, they're going to have Robert Downey Jr. play a guy that is a piece of crap, that doesn't care about anything about making money, and is all about himself. And it's going to be a 90-minute awful movie, like I've said. But when I went and saw this movie with my brother-in-law, I was like, wow, I was wrong. They took this movie with stars like Gwyneth Paltrow, Jeff Bridges, Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard plays his friend Rhodey, who later gets replaced by Don. Then Jeff Bridges plays his mentor and friend, Obadiah Stane, and Gwyneth Paltrow plays his boss slash secretary. It's his boss. And at the end of the day, because spoiler alert, they get married. Pepper Potts, and they take Iron Man. He gets captured by the Ten Rings. Obadiah Stane set him up, and he basically dies. He should be dead, because he has shrapnel inside his heart and body. But he makes a suit. He becomes Iron Man in a cave, and he gets a second chance at life, and he doesn't waste it. He comes back and he tries to make things right after everything that he's done wrong, because he realizes that he did stuff wrong. Who thought they could have taken a character like Iron Man, because I didn't really know that much about Iron Man growing up, and start this amazing universe where 22, 23 movies in, about to be at number 24 and 25 after this year with Black Widow and the Eternals. And it felt fitting that, spoiler alert, but Iron Man started this universe. It felt fitting that Iron Man would end the first of many, many chapters, I hope, of this universe. Now on to the next movie. I'm not going to give too much away, because if you haven't seen this movie yet, please do yourself a favor and go see it. Now the next movie is going to be Avengers 2, aka Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie, some people don't like, some people do like. This movie, right after this movie came out, Mark Ruffalo and company made out a plan to give Hulk his 3-movie arc from Ragnarok, EndGame, and Infinity War. This movie kickstarted all that. The main villain in this movie, of course, is Ultron. We also have the introduction of the lovely Elizabeth Olsen, and she plays Scarlet Witch. And we have Pietro Maximoff, her brother, aka Quicksilver. Yes, they are X-Men, and Fox let them use them, because at the time Fox owned them, but Fox only said he can only use Quicksilver for one movie, so they killed Quicksilver off. He saved Hawkeye. And now that Fox is owned by Disney, I wonder how they're going to bring him back, because you know they're going to. This movie has its ups and downs. We get the tension of a split between the Avengers when Tony and Steve are outside cutting wood. The Avengers Age of Ultron, it is only better in my mind because it has everybody. It has the Falcon, it has War Machine, it has a funny Stan Lee cameo, and it has a lighthearted moment where they're all trying to lift Mjolnir and Captain America nudges it a little. We learn that Falcon, the reason why he's been busy, he's been trying to find Bucky for Steve. I really like this movie. I watch it from time to time. Some people might not like it, but the reason why it's above is because it introduced more people. And now that we're getting to the nitty gritty and Thanos is coming, they create Vision, and he has the Mind Stone. And Elizabeth Olsen did an amazing job in this movie. I adore her with all my heart. And it's because of this movie. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next is going to be Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Okay, so this cast of this movie was an amazing cast. You got Zoe Saldana playing Gamora. You got Vin Diesel as Groot. You got Chris Pratt as Star-Lord. You got Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon. You got John C. Reilly as one of the Nova Prime members. You got Dave Bautista, the former WWE superstar slash Hall of Famer this year, as Drax the Destroyer. And you got the main villain, Ronan the Accuser, who killed Spoiler alert. Dave Bautista's family. That's why Bautista wants him. And they're after this orb, which is later we find out is the Power Stone, is one of the 6 Infinity Stones that Thanos wants. You have Nebula in this movie. The reason why this is ranked so much better than the second movie is because it feels like a better movie. Yes, it would have been better to get a backstory maybe of Bradley Cooper and Vin Diesel and Chris Pratt's character and Zoe Saldana, because when we saw her and we heard that she's the adopted daughter of Thanos, you want to know more. And maybe even about Tisa's backstory a little bit. You want to know more about these characters. And then they just threw them together. They met because Yondu put a bounty on Chris Pratt's head because Chris Pratt double-crossed him. And Bradley Cooper's Rocket Raccoon and Groot go after him. And Zoe Saldana's Gamora is trying to obtain the orb that Chris Pratt has. Because Chris Pratt tries to sell it to somebody, and then when Chris Pratt says the Ronin, the accuser wants it, the person kicks him out, and they fight on Nova's planet, and the Nova Corps arrests him. They send him to the prison that Drax is at. Long story short, they break out, they escape, and they go to the Collector's home planet to sell it to him. Stuff happens. Ronan the Accuser and Nebula get the orb. Thanos says, bring it to me. Ronan says no. He becomes powerful, and then it's up to the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Nova Corps and the Ravengers, led by Yondu, to stop him. Long story short, and that's basically the whole movie. And then we have a small little cameo at the end of the movie by Howard the Duck, played by Seth Green. This was a really good movie. I really enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed it better than the second one and some of the other movies on this list. But give it a watch. And the soundtrack is amazing by itself. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next is going to be one of the better movies, and that is Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok is easily the best Thor movie. You have the Incredible Hulk, you have the Valkyries finally coming, and the main villain of this movie is Hela. More on Hela in a bit. But we find out what happens to Thor and the Incredible Hulk. Why weren't they on Captain America Civil War? Well, simply because Thor was trying to find Infinity Stones. The whole time he was trying to find Infinity Stones, and when he couldn't find them, he just came home. He came home and he found out that his brother, spoiler alert, was impersonating his father. And Loki sent his father all the way back to Earth. And that ended up killing him, and because he died of old age. And when he died, Hela was released. Dun, dun, dun. Played by Kate Blanchett. I probably butchered her name, but oh well. We also get a much needed boost to the Thor movie, because this is what a Thor movie should be about. And Tessa, the actress that plays Valkyrie, tremendous acting, tremendous casting rather. You also get Thor versus the Hulk on Sakaar, and Hulk whoops that booty, buddy. And Hulk comes out of the Hulk form when he sees a video of Natasha. And he finds out that he's been in Hulk form for 2-3 years. 3 years have passed since Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie is what Captain America the Winter Soldier was for Captain America. Thor needed this. And now we're getting Thor 4, Love and Thunder. I can't wait to see what they do with that one. And Natalie Portman is back in that one. Thor Ragnarok is one of the better MCU movies, and it ends with Thanos' ship approaching, so this leads right into Avengers Infinity War. Yes, another movie came out in between, but that takes place before all that happened. It takes place like right after Civil War. if my memory is correct. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next is a movie that many of us never thought we would see, and that is Spider-Man Homecoming. So when Spider-Man Homecoming was first announced, we never thought we were going to get Spider-Man inside of the MCU. Because Sony owns Spider-Man, and Spider-Man is not a Disney product yet. Spider-Man Homecoming is a pretty good movie. It has a really good cast. It has Tony Stark, as played by Iron Man, of course. It has Happy Hogan. It has Tom Holland playing Peter Parker. And luckily, we don't have to sit through another origin story, because we had that in the past. Uncle Ben's dead. We have Zendaya playing MJ, and some of you are probably thinking to yourself, wait, Zendaya is African American. MJ is supposed to be white. She's playing Michelle Jones. We have quite a few villains in this movie. We have the Scorpion. We have Donald Glover playing the Prowler. We have the Tinkerer. We have the Shocker 1 and the Shocker 2. And the main big bad in this movie is Adrian Toomes, a.k.a. the Vulture, played by the Michael Keaton. Now, this movie takes place right after Civil War, and the beginning takes place right after Avengers. Basically, Adrian Toomes is upset, furious at Tony Stark, because Tony Stark caused this big New York battle that we saw in the Avengers movie, and he wouldn't let his crew, Adrian Toomes' crew, pick up the mess that they left, because the Avengers made this big mess and they just left. So after they got kicked out of that place they were picking up, they stole a bunch of the Atari tech and made the Vulture, and they made a bunch of the weapons. And now we're going to get into Far From Home a little later on. As you can tell, they're going to be building towards the Sinister Six. The Sinister Six is a group of Spider-Man villains who hate Peter Parker. And in my mind, you're going to get the Vulture, you're going to get Mysterio, you're going to get the Prowler, you're going to get the Scorpion, you're going to get the Shocker, and you're going to get Kraven the Hunter. The Vulture were to leave, and the Chameleon, who's also in Far From Home, will take the place of the Vulture. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next is going to be Captain America, The First Avenger. The first Captain America movie. When I first heard about this movie coming out, I was iffy. I didn't want to watch it. I had to watch it, of course, because the Avengers was coming out, so I powered through it. First couple times, I didn't like it. The third time watching it, leading up to Infinity War, I fell in love with this movie. I relate to Captain America. I've been told that I'll never be able to do stuff. I'm too small. I'm weak, and my asthma alone will stop me. This movie has Haley Atwell as Peggy Carter, Sebastian Stan as Private Bucky Barnes. You have Tommy Lee Jones. You have Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull, and Chris Evans. This is a period piece movie, and it came out at the right time. I thought that they were gonna give us a cheesy Captain America movie, and because who the director is Joe Johnston, and if you don't know who Joe Johnston is, congratulations. He made the worst Jurassic Park movie, Jurassic Park 3. Captain America: The First Avenger was the turning point for me. Now, going back and thinking about it, because Iron Man 1 was a success, the Thor movie didn't come out, because Captain America was the fourth movie. So Captain America and Thor were the two turning points for the MCU for me. This movie is basically about a scrawny person, Steve Rogers, who wants to fight for his country, but people won't let him. And then he gets chosen to be a test subject to get pumped full of the super soldier serum. And that turns him into the bulky Captain America we know. Not to give too much away, the ending of the movie is him going to ice for 75 years and him waking up in 2011. If you haven't seen Captain America the First Avenger, I highly recommend it because Captain America has the best trilogy out of all of them. He doesn't have a bad movie. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next is going to be a little bit of a shocker to most. It is a movie that won a lot of awards. It is going to be Marvel's Black Panther. Black Panther stars Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, aka Black Panther. You have Ulysses S. Claw making his return. You have Michael B. Jordan as Killmonger. You have Michonne from Walking Dead. I forgot her real name. You have Letitia White as Shuri. You have M'Baku, played by Winston Duke. This movie, I don't have that many complaints about Black Panther. The first fight felt like too dark and too lightish. It was like too dark. When he goes to save his love interest in the first big fight, when he faces M'Baku, was amazing. The scenery was amazing. It was like the first fight was dark, and when they used their lights, it was kind of too bright. The line of Wakanda was one of the most captivating moments of Black Panther. We've never seen a set that beautiful, and they did an amazing job on it. Shuri, for me, she stole the whole show. She had these one little liners here and there, and she was hilarious. She's going to be a big player in the MCU from future films to come. You have the refreshing ape man M'Baku. He was funny at times, and you knew that him and T'Challa were going to bond over the respect they have for each other. Michael B. Jordan. This guy, he got the crap end of the stick in the Fantastic Four remake. That it's going to be remade again. And Marvel gave him another shot, and they let him play Killmonger, and he knocked it out of the park. He did such an amazing job, and it sucks that, spoiler alert, he's dead in the MCU now, because Michael B. Jordan was fantastic as Killmonger. He's right up there with Tom Hiddleston's Loki, in my opinion. And T'Challa revisiting the ancestral plane when he went to go see his father was an amazing moment that I enjoyed. I enjoyed the Killmonger when he visited his ancestral plane, and then the big final fight with Killmonger and his cousin T'Challa. The first fight was pretty good between Killmonger and T'Challa, but the thing that made this whole movie amazing was the cast, because many people were expecting this movie not to be that good. I'm going to read you one of Killmonger's last lines. Bury me in the ocean with my ancestors who jumped from the ships, because they knew that death was better than bondage. Then he dies. Those were his last lines, and you felt those lines. You felt that line of dialogue when Killmonger was saying it. Michael B. Jordan, he did an amazing job. Him and Shuri stole the show, and Chadwick Boseman did an amazing job. This wasn't the first time we saw Black Panther. We saw him in Captain America 3, Civil War. But man, I can't wait to return to Wakanda for Black Panther 2. Now on to the next movie. Coming in next is a fan favorite, Captain America 3, aka Captain America Civil War. Now, since this movie is such a pivotal and key moment of this entire MCU franchise, I'm not going to give that much away. I'm just going to go over a few of the key moments. This movie has basically everybody in it. Everybody but Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo. You have Tony Stark returning to play Iron Man. You have the beautiful Elizabeth Olsen. You have she's playing Wanda Maximoff. You got Chris Evans playing Captain America. Scarlett Johansson playing Natasha. You got Anthony Mackie playing Sam Wilson. You got Don playing Lieutenant James Rhodes, aka War Machine. You got Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. You got Paul Bettany playing Vision. You got Chadwick Boseman making his MCU debut, playing T'Challa, the Black Panther. You got so many. You got Paul Rudd as Ant-Man in this movie, and you got Sharon Carter. And the big surprise that nobody thought would happen: Tom Holland. Yes, Tom Holland. When he got casted, or he got leaked as being in the movie, I'm pretty sure, if my memory is correct, they didn't give out his name. So, we didn't know who he was. Tom Holland plays Spider-Man, if you skip to this part of the video. Because we talked about Spider-Man Homecoming earlier on. This was his first movie. And some of my personal favorite moments from this movie involve him. When he was starstruck by the Avengers, when he was meeting all of them for the first time. When Ant-Man meets Cap and he's also starstruck. Falcon gets a bird costume receipt when he gets captured, when him and Captain America get captured with Bucky. Because the whole movie was basically saying that the Avengers should be under the government's watch because they are dangerous, because Wanda accidentally blew up a building when Crossbones tried to blow himself up to take out him and Cap. He tried to assassinate Cap with a bomb. Wanda stopped it, lifted him up, threw him up, and he blew up, but in doing that, he took out a building. And then they made the Soviet Accords. Tony Stark made that so they could save the Avengers, and that the government is allowed to keep a watch on them, is from what I took from it. But Steven Rogers, Captain America, didn't want to do that. He said that, what if we need to be somewhere like in New York and the government won't let us go? Team Iron Man also reacted to the giant man, Ant-Man, when he became a giant. I love that. Because I'm not a big Star Wars fan, but they made a Star Wars reference. And the people that I was with at the time, watching this movie when it came out, loved that. I had to have one of them explain it to me. I was like, oh, okay. Sam and Bucky in the car was a highlight of the movie. Vision doesn't understand doors and boundaries because he's adapting, he's learning, because he was living at the Avengers compound with Wanda. Because if you haven't read the comics, Vision and Wanda, they marry each other, they have kids, and all that. Go read the comics if you haven't. Sam asks Black Widow to think Red Wing. Basically, the Avengers function like a complete world order machine when they're all together. But after Falcon uses Red Wing, his little miniature bot that scans the area, it saves Black Widow from being killed by Crossbones and the Crossbones thugs. She thanks Sam, but Sam says no, thank the little guy, and Black Widow won't. I got a little chuckle out of that. Scott Lang, when he was talking about passing out when becoming Giant Man, we knew that was going to come back into play. And Tony Stank, that was hilarious. Tony Stank was the captain of this whole universe. This man that wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for this man Stan Lee, that was his big cameo. He delivered a package to Tony Stark with, it was a phone with a message saying, "Sorry, I'm sorry, Tony, but I promise you, if you need us, you need me, give me a call, I'll be there," from Captain America. Those are some of the key moments that I just wanted to talk about real quick. This is a really good movie. Yes, it's not the Civil War from the comics, because some people die in that comic. I'm not going to say who dies, but they weren't going to do that with Infinity War right around the corner. Now on to the next movie. Coming in at number 4 is most people's favorite, Captain America, the Winter Soldier. When we pick up with Captain America, the Winter Soldier, it's been 2 years since the events of the Avengers. Captain Stephen Rogers, played once again by Chris Evans, is working with S.H.I.E.L.D. We also meet Sam Wilson in the opening when they're running around the Washington Monument. Sam Wilson, for those of you that don't know, plays the Falcon. Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow is also in this movie. She is the second in command. She's like Rhodey in this movie for IronMan, but this is the Captain America movie, so she's like the second superhero. But we get 3. We get Captain America, Falcon, and Scarlett Johansson. There is a glass elevator brawl, which is one of the top 10 fights in the MCU, still to this day. Amazing choreography in that little tight of a space. And the post-credit scene is the Age of Miracles, and that is Scarlet Witch, aka Wanda Maximoff, better known as the beautiful Elizabeth Olsen, and we get her brother Quicksilver. Stan Lee, his cameos have become a tradition. Sadly, that tradition ended after EndGame, and in this long history of traditions, he plays a janitor. For those of you that were looking for him, he's a janitor. There's an opening assault on his ship. Also, Steven Rogers and Natasha Romanoff go with the assault team led by Crossbones, the man who becomes Crossbones in this movie, to save people on a ship. And I believe, if my memory is correct, they were S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. Maria Hill is Rescue Hero 1. That's what people in the movie theater were calling her. I remember that. And Captain America has a catch-up list, which is pretty funny, because everybody gave him stuff to catch up on because he was in ice for 70 years. And like I said, this takes place 2 years after the Avengers. So he's been out of ice for two years now. Steve Jobs, I Love Lucy, Star Wars, the moon landing, the Berlin Wall, Thai food were on the list. And there was a couple more things I'm trying to remember at the top of my head. But that was a nice little nod. Then we get a Captain Widow ship because they kiss in this movie. They had an Apple Store product placement, and Scarlett Johansson jokingly says, "Was that your first kiss since 1943?" I really like this movie. This is one of the better movies, in my opinion, but I enjoy the other ones more. This one is only good because it's the best Captain America movie. It has the best villain in the Winter Soldier, aka Bucky Barnes. And if you haven't seen this movie, give it a try, because it is, wow, great. It's a great superhero movie. Maybe top 10 all time, in my mind. Now on to the next movie. Coming in at number 3 is going to be Spider-Man Far From Home. This movie, man, this movie is a really good movie. This is the first movie post-EndGame, which means this is the latest movie in the MCU. So I'm not going to give that much away. Please finish the video, go watch this movie. Go rent it on Redbox, go buy it on iTunes, watch the movie, and then come back and let me know what you thought of the movie. But I'm going to go over some key moments of the movie. The main villain of this movie is finally a villain that we've all been waiting for, played by Jake Gyllenhaal, Mysterio. We were supposed to get Mysterio in the Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 4, but as we know, that didn't happen, and it got rebooted to The Amazing Spider-Man, and that got 2 movies, and now we have this amazing Spider-Man adaptation. There's so much I want to talk about, but I don't want to give it away because this is such a good movie. This is one of the best MCU movies, and I'm not just saying that because I love the MCU. This is one of the best MCU superhero movies out there. It has everything, and the post-credit scene turns it upside down. Everything's going to change now because the post-credit scene, J. Jonah Jameson, the original actor too, is back. He outs Peter Parker because Mysterio made what I believe is an illusion of him dying, saying that Peter Parker is the bad guy. Peter Parker killed him, and Peter Parker is responsible for everything bad that happened in Europe. Because this movie takes place in Europe. It takes place overseas. And this movie is going to be a movie that we're going to be able to come back to and be like, this is where everything changed. This movie also realistically sets up the Sinister Six. The Sinister Six, we have Prowler, we have Scorpion, we have Shocker, we have Vulture, we have Mysterio, and we have the Chameleon, and maybe Kraven the Hunter, because Kraven the Hunter, I believe, is going to be in Spider-Man 3, and that comes out in a year or two, I believe. It's either 2021 or 2022. But Spider-Man Far From Home is such a good movie. I know I've said that a lot in this time frame of 2 minutes, but it is. And sadly, this is the first movie that does not have a Stan Lee cameo. And the other Avengers are gone. Thor is off the radar. Captain Marvel is unavailable. Captain America is quote-unquote dead. He's retired. They're letting him live a happy life. Iron Man is gone. Natasha is gone. Hawkeye is with his family. The Incredible Hulk is hurt. Spider-Man is the only line of defense they have left. And Mysterio wants to be able to become an Avenger. He wants to be the next great superhero, and that's his whole story arc. And he worked for Tony Stark. And he wants to get revenge on Tony Stark. He wants to make Mysterio the greatest superhero ever. But Tony Stark, he wanted Spider-Man to take his place. Because Tony wouldn't have done what he did if he knew that Peter wouldn't be there after Tony was gone. That's the line from the movie. And there's not that much I can say about this movie, but other than it's up there with one of the best movies that I've seen. And the return from the snap in the first couple minutes of the movie, that was hilarious. It showed people coming back, like people coming back that were playing basketball, they're coming back to a marching band performance. But what are the odds that MJ, Ned, Flash, all of Peter's friends got dusted? That's pretty clever. I see what they did there. But now the question is Miles Morales a little bit older? Are we going to get a Miles Morales in the movies? Because remember, Miles was teased in Homecoming. Because Donald Glover's character, he plays Prowler. Just think about that for a moment. Now on to number 2. And coming again at number 2 is going to be Avengers Infinity War. When Avengers Infinity War was announced, everybody was hyped because we knew that it was coming. But we didn't expect to get what we did. When Thanos' ship arrived at the end of Thor Ragnarok, we knew it was about to get real. You knew that Thor and company were about to get messed up. And they did. I'm just going to talk about some key moments in Avengers Infinity War, because it is one of the masterpieces, one of the best motion pictures superheroes movies that has ever been made and that probably will ever be made. I don't see anything topping this anytime soon. The death of Loki was shocking, but not really. It's shocking because he has a Disney Plus TV show coming out. And yes, it takes place in a multiverse and in another dimension, and he's going back, creating new timelines and all that, but we didn't know that at the time. And it was hard to see Tom Hiddleston die. The teams on Team Titan and Team Wakanda. I'm going to be jumping around from like thing to thing, because he made a list. Team Titan was the Guardians of the Galaxy and Nebula, Doctor Strange, Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man, and Iron Man, aka Tony Stark. Doctor Strange gave up the Time Stone because he went into the future and he saw over 14 million some odd possibilities, and there was only one that we won. And in that one possibility that we won, that one future that we won, he gave up the Time Stone. So he did it for a reason. And it was important to remember that he did it for a reason. On Team Wakanda, you got Black Panther and his tribe. You got the Incredible Hulk, Scarlett Johansson, aka Black Widow. You got Captain America. You got Falcon. You got so many people. You got Wanda. You got Okoye. You have all these wonderful characters, and they are trying to protect Vision. Vision was brought in Age of Ultron, and he's Wanda's love interest. And sadly, they are not able to save him. Let's talk about Thanos. Thanos is, without a doubt, the best Marvel villain that they have pulled off. He's gotten 2 movies, and he's been a background character in a few. He was a background character in Guardians of the Galaxy. He was in the post-credit scene of the Avengers, and I believe it was Avengers Age of Ultron is where he went and got the gauntlet and said, fine, I'm going to do it myself. I really liked Thanos. Josh Brolin did an amazing job playing the character, and wow. You felt for him, and you understand why he did what he did. He did because he didn't want to see Earth go through what he went through. He wanted people to go to bed hungry. He didn't want people to die hungry. He felt like him making the sacrifice and him making the tough call would be right. And at the end of the day, it's not right. Nobody should have that much power. Now, we're going to talk about a return, because Thanos finds the Soul Stone. And somebody's guarding it. We see a black cloak figure, and it is Red Skull. Red Skull, who was last seen in Captain America, the First Avenger, way back in 2011, he got transferred to Vormir, and from there on, he's been guarding the Soul Stone for over 70 years. And then he tells Thanos, in order to obtain the soul, you must lose that of which you love. A soul for a soul. And Thanos, being the mad titan that he is, sacrifices his favorite daughter, Gamora. Gamora dies. That was one of the sad scenes in the movie theater. When I was there opening night, there was not a dry eye when that happened, because everybody loves Gamora. Gamora. I'm saying Gamora. And if you want to be realistic, this whole thing happened. The whole snap happened because of Star-Lord. He lost his temper because Star-Lord found out that Thanos went to Vormir and he sacrificed Gamora. And he lost it. He started pistol whipping him with his gun, and that broke Madness's hold on Thanos. She had him asleep because they were trying to get the glove off. If they would have had another 5 or 10 seconds, they would have had the glove. And they could have just, like, teleported back to New York. Or teleported somewhere else and gotten rid of the glove. But Star-Lord lost his temper. And caused all that. And now the Wanda and Vision, I'm happy they are getting a TV series because I want to see more of their story. I want to see more of their connection because Elizabeth Olsen and Paul, they play really, really well off each other. I'm sorry. I had to get something to drink. And Elizabeth Olsen was made to play Wanda. She is the Scarlet Witch. And I saved the best moment for last. Thor takes Stormbreaker. He gets a new weapon called Stormbreaker. It's an axe. He chucks it at Thanos. It goes into his chest. He pushes on it. And he said, I told you, you're going to pay for that. What he was talking about was killing Loki, killing Heimdall, slaughtering all his people. And then Thanos said, you should have gone for the head, and snap. And that is when everybody got dusted. We knew people were going to get dusted. We knew the snap was going to happen. We knew the snap was going to be the last part of this movie. But we didn't know who was going to get dusted. T'Challa got dusted. Sam got dusted. Wasp got dusted. The original Antman and the Wasp got dusted. All these characters got dusted. Even all the Guardians, but Nebula and Rocket. But the one person getting dusted that broke everybody's heart was Spider-Man. That Tom Holland scene, him getting dusted, was so heartbreaking to watch because you felt him dying. You felt bad for him, and he improvised, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark, please, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. Apparently, he improvised that himself. He was just supposed to fall into Tony's arms and say, I'm sorry, and get dusted. If it is true that Tom Holland improvised that, way to go, Tom. You broke all of our hearts. Now on to the obvious number one movie of all time of the MCU in my mind so far. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as you can tell, there's only one movie left. And my number one favorite Marvel MCU movie is Avengers EndGame. If you haven't seen Avengers EndGame yet, please go watch it because I'm going to talk about some key moments, and these are massive, massive spoilers for all the 22 movies. So please like and subscribe, and go watch Avengers EndGame right now because it is one of the best superhero movies I've ever seen. And I know I've said that for the past few. When Thanos did exactly what he said he was going to do, and that's why about 50% of all living creatures, the Avengers took a little while to gather the resources, find out exactly who's missing on their team. Because we saw that Doctor Strange was missing, Spider-Man, Shuri, T'Challa, Scott Lang. But as we know, he was in the quantum realm, but they didn't know that. And Star-Lord, Gamora, Drax, Mantis, Wanda, all of them were gone. Every single one of them were gone. And the Avengers, they took a hard hit. So they found out that Thanos used the stones again, and they went to where he was. And he destroyed the stones because he didn't want somebody to be tempted to use them, to undo what he did. So they killed Thanos in the first, like, 10, 15 minutes of the movie. Then we have a time jump 5 years later. And in this time jump, we find out that a rat saved the universe by letting Ant-Man out of the quantum realm because he hit the on button, or the release button. He hit a big red button and Ant-Man came flying out of the quantum realm. We also find out that Tony and Pepper, they had a kid named Morgan Stark. That was teased in Avengers Infinity War. And for those of you that don't know this, Morgan Stark, the adult actress, was casted to be in the Endgame, and she had a scene. It was like Thanos' vision when he saw Gamora, and he just said that it cost everything. Tony had the same vision, but he told Morgan that I love you 3,000. So, because Tony did it so his kid could live, because I'm going to go a little bit off track. Tony did the snap the second time to eliminate Thanos, because Thanos came back, 2014 Thanos, he came via time machine. Yeah. Don't know how they got that past the Avengers. But he came back via time machine and he rained fire. And he found out that they had the stones and he wanted to eliminate everybody. Because this Thanos doesn't care. So that little character arc that we had of Thanos was wasted. But, like I said, the MVPs of this movie, for me, were Iron Man, Ant-Man, Captain America, and Black Widow. Because Black Widow, her and Hawkeye went to Vormir, and we all know what that means. One of them has to die. One of them has to give up their life for the other one to obtain the stone. We thought it was going to be Hawkeye, but it got leaked that Hawkeye is getting a TV show and Black Widow is getting a movie. So it was 50-50 who was going to die. Because the movie could take place, and it does take place, in between Civil War and Infinity War. And the Hawkeye TV show can take place from Avengers all the way to Avengers EndGame. It can take place anywhere in between. But Black Widow sacrifices herself so her friends can bring everybody back and attempt to bring everybody back, because he did it as a risk, because they didn't know if the snap would work. They didn't know if they did the snap would wipe out them. They had no idea. The final fight scene was pretty amazing. This is one of my favorite final fight scenes in a superhero movie that I've seen. Because you have everything. You have Black Panther with a gauntlet. You have Hawkeye with a gauntlet. You have the A-Force, the women's Endgame team of the women Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. A-Force is the women's Avengers. That's why I said A-Force, because I thought A. I'm sorry. But you had Wanda literally rip Thanos to pieces. Wanda is one of the most powerful superheroes, powerful people in the MCU. She's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I can guarantee you that. Then, the end of the movie, we have Tony Stark obtain the gauntlet, or the stones. He swiped him off the gauntlet that Thanos took when he punched, I think it was Captain Marvel. I can't remember how he got the gauntlet, or he picked it up because it fell. Yeah, he threw his sword. It fell because the sword went through the quantum realm thing that Ant-Man had, and it exploded. It fell. Captain America tried to get it. Iron Man, Thor tried to get it. They were not able to. Captain Marvel tried to get it. She got hit with the Power Stone and she went flying to God knows where. And Doctor Strange hold up his one finger and he said, "This is the one." Tony swiped the stones, said, "I am Iron Man did the snap. I tried to do the snap, but I can't snap on my fingers right now. And Thanos got erased. Then we see everybody being reunited with their families. We see T'Challa and Shuri and their mom reunited. We see Scott Lang and his daughter Cassie, who's now grown up. She's a teenager / young adult, so she's going to be Stature in the new Avengers movie and the new Ant-Man movie. And we see Tony Stark's funeral, and that is how the movie ends. But you would think we get a little bit more. We get a Hawkeye and a Wanda talking about Vision and Scarlet Witch's Vision. She's talking about Vision, and Hawkeye is talking about Black Widow, saying they want them to know, they wish they could know that they won. And Scarlet Witch says they do. They know. Then Captain America is the one that's in charge to go return the stones. He was supposed to go return the stones and come back to 2023, 2024. But he doesn't. He says goodbye to Bucky. Bucky says, "I'm going to miss you, pal." He says goodbye to Sam. He returns all the stones and Mjolnir, because that is gone, because Hela destroyed it in Ragnarok. And he doesn't come back. And we see this person sitting down on a log overlooking the lake. It's Old Man Cap. And he passes his shield on to Sam, and Sam says it feels like it belongs to someone else, because Bucky was supposed to get the shield. But Bucky is the Winter Soldier in the MCU, and Falcon is Falcon. But now he's going to be Captain America. And then he finds out that Cap got married, and he says, "Do you want to tell me about her?" And he says, "No, I don't think I will." We get a little sneak peek on who he married. I'm sorry. And he married Peggy. He married the love of his life. And that is it for Avengers EndGame. That's all I'm going to give you. Go watch Avengers EndGame. Go watch it right now, because it is one of the best superhero movies out there. I want to say thank you guys for joining us for Bananas Epic Gaming and watching this entire MCU ranking video. This is the number 20th episode of CageTalk, and I could have done it without you guys. And please, if you feel like it, and if you feel like you deserve it, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.